Hello everyone. It's with great pleasure that I welcome all of you to an interesting English literature lesson today. In your anthology, you get 20 poems, and under that poetry section, there is an important poem, The Clown's Wife, written by John Agard. This particular poem comes under the theme life. Well, do you know the topic? The Clown's Wife by John Agard. Can you identify this picture? Have you seen this type of paper? Well, by now you know. This is a picture of a clown. Yes, he is a clown. But let me know some special characters that you find, special features or special things that you find in a clown. You can see that red nose, that's very special. The clowns wear, and the wig, it's not the natural hair. They wear wigs. Funny clothes they wear, and the clowns used to have face paint. A clown is a person who makes the others laugh. Can you imagine? Have you seen? Yes. By now, you know what or who a clown is. What do clowns do? What do these clowns do? If you have seen clowns, you would have noted so many actions, their behavior, what they do on stage. Yes, they are entertainers. Clowns entertain the other people. At the same time, you can tell them they are jokers. They do juggling. What is juggling? That means they try to toss certain things, maybe balls, maybe other pebbles or the books, and try to balance. Right? It's nice to see when they juggle things. They move here and there and try to juggle, and that means juggling is to toss certain things up and down and try to settle. Right. They do tell jokes. Clowns do tell jokes. What else do? They turn cartwheels and they do latest card tricks. What are card tricks? You would have seen clowns taking card packs and doing tricky stuff. Why? To get the attention, to entertain people. So, clown's job is what? What do clowns do? They make the audience happy. Clowns do, a professional clown of course, do lot of tricks to make the audience very happy. What is this poem today you are going to learn? A Clown's Wife. The Clown's Wife. Not the clown's wife, right? It's not common in general, just a clown's wife. It's the particular one, right? Do you know the poet? The poet is John Agard. You can see the picture of John Agard. Have you heard about him? Well, John Agard was born in British Guyana. Now you call it Guyana. in the Caribbean in 1949. Right? He was born in Guyana, British Guyana, and moved, Johnson Agard moved to the UK. What is UK? United Kingdom, Great Britain. That was in the late 1970s. Can you imagine the year you were not born, right? The children can understand. Now you're going to learn something which, a poem which was written long time back. And Johnson Agard is well known for powerful and fun performance of his work. Johnson Agard had a powerful style of writing, and he has won the Queen's Gold Medal for poetry. Right? Johnson Agard won the Queen's Gold Medal. He's a gold medalist, and he won the gold medal for poetry in 2012. Right. Now you have understood some information about the poet. What you have to remember is Johnson Agard was very, he had a very successful way of expressing himself and a powerful way of expressing his poetry. There, he was famous because of his powerful and fun performance of his work. He was a gold medalist, a recognized poet in the world. Right. Let's look at the poem in detail. The Clown's Wife. About my husband, the clown, what could I say? On stage, he's a different person. Up there, he's a king on a throne. But at home, you should hear him moan. The moment he walks through that door, without that red nose and them funny clothes, he seems to have the world on his shoulder. I do me best to cheer him up, poor soul. I juggle with eggs. I turn cartwheels. I tell jokes. I do me latest card trick. I even have a borrow of his red nose. But he doesn't say exactly how he feels. Doesn't say what's bothering him inside. Just sits there saying almost to himself, "Oh life, our life, what would I do without this clown of a wife?" That poem was written by Johnson Agard. Well, now let's see the structure of the poem. Look at the poem very carefully. If you look at the first verse, there are 2 lines. About my husband, the clown, what could I say? You can see 2 lines in the first verse. The second verse has 3 lines. On stage, he's a different person. Up there, he's a king on a throne. But at home, you should hear him moan. Can you see the rhyming couplets here? Well, yes. Throne, moan. Throne, moan are the rhyming couplets that you can identify here. The second verse has 3 lines. Look at the third verse. There are 3 lines in it. The moment he walks through that door, without that red nose and them funny clothes, he seems to have the world on his shoulder. You can see 3 lines in the third verse. Well, the fourth verse has 4 lines. 4 lines. I do me best to cheer him up, poor soul. I juggle with eggs. I turn cartwheels. I turn cartwheels. I tell jokes. I do me latest card trick. I even have a borrow of his red nose. You get 4 lines. The next verse, the 5th verse, has 3 lines. You can see, but he doesn't say exactly how he feels. Doesn't say what's bothering him inside. Just sits there saying almost to himself. You can say the semicolon, right? The sentence is not completed. The final verse, there you get 2 lines. O life, our life. What would I do without this clown of a wife? Do you find any difference? The last 2 lines, the final verse, the 6th verse has 2 lines, and you can see it's within inverted commas. That also you must understand. You have to pay attention to the punctuation marks because that also has a weight. Those punctuation marks carry more weight to give the precise meaning of the poem. The poet is John Agard. Good. I hope you can remember the structure of the poem we discussed before. There are 6 verses. Can you remember? The first verse has 2 lines. The second and the third verse has 3 lines. The fourth verse, different. It has 4 lines. 5th verse has 3 lines. The last verse, you get 2 lines. But you should remember, I have to emphasize the last verse. You get perfect rhyming couplet. Can you identify that? Well, life, wife. Life and wife. The perfect rhyming couplets you get, life and wife. But beforehand you got throne and mourn also. Well, look at this picture. Now you can see the clown there is what is he doing? Juggling or doing tricks or trying to toss certain objects and trying to settle that. But beforehand, I need to ask something. What can you understand? The clown's wife. The clown apostrophe as wife. That means this wife, this particular wife, belongs to a clown. Clown is a professional who creates or does things in a professional manner to make the audience happy and enjoy. Are we going to see or hear about the clown? It's not about the clown. Is that wife a clown? Children, you can identify it's very ironical. Ironical. That means the surface meaning. Deeper than that, there is a meaning. There is a kind of a meaning given through the topic. Very ironical when you read and appreciate the poem. When you learn more, you will identify what that point is. Well, The Clown's Wife by John Agard. The first verse, let me repeat for you. About my husband, the clown, what could I say? The very first narrative, first person, you are going to get hot news, fresh news, very clear idea. Because we are going to learn about this clown, and who is going to speak? A very close relative. Wife is the person who knows more about her husband. But this wife says, about my husband, the clown. Clown's wife says, about my husband, the clown. She mentions the husband's profession. He's a clown. But she says, it's a paradox. It's kind of a peculiar thing. She says, what could I say? What does that mean? Who is the speaker here? The speaker here is the wife, not a normal wife, not somebody else's wife, the clown's wife. You can see the belonging. She says, my husband, not somebody else's. About my husband, the clown. You can understand? The wife explains that she is clueless. The speaker here is the clown's wife, and she's clueless. Can that happen? Can it be possible? Well, we'll read furthermore. The second verse, she says this. On stage, he's a different person. She knows something about him. She says, on stage, he's a different person. I remember Shakespeare said, everybody has their roles on this stage of life. Right? Even we all have our performance. We do our characters and we depart. So here John Agard relates in like the wife says, on stage, his stage performance, he's a different person. Up there, he's a king on a throne. Can you imagine? King on a throne. That means he gets the attention, attraction, and everybody pays attention to him. King, of course, king on a throne. You can see the picture also. His command only is everywhere. King is a successful person, a dictator like. He is the person and the others are under him. His instructions are carried out. So on stage, he's a different person. Up there, he's a king on a throne. Metaphorically, it's used. Right? You can see. But at home, you should hear him moan. You have to look at this situation. It's totally unbelievable. Young children, you can see different characters of people. On stage, he's a very powerful person. Right? He's like a king on a throne. But after coming him, you should, at home, wife says, you should hear him. The wife is inviting us, the readers. to hear him moan. It's moan. What is moan? Weeping, worried, sad, not happy, not commanding, no commands. He's not the jovial person, right? Yes. What do you think? Now, you can identify the dual personality. That means his public life and the personal life. When he goes to the stage, when he is to perform, when he has to perform on stage, he's a professional. He is a different person. That wife clearly says, this husband is a different person on stage. And he has his command as a king on a throne. But at home, you can see him naturally, without face paint. Now this particular one is a clown. That clown is on stage like a king on a throne. But at home, no face paint, nothing. He is worried, right? So you can see dual personalities, dual characters. That means two characters in him. He has a public face, and at home, his personal life. We can furthermore explain his professional life and his personal life. Professional life and personal life. Right? Now you are going to learn more about life of people, because literature helps you to identify the reality. Children, my dear children, these are pieces of literature which enables you to identify the sad and the happy stories of people. You can tap your heart and see even your different faces. The faces that you wear in public and at home. You also must see me. I am very happy here, but at a different place, I may be different. Can you understand? Dual characteristics, dual personalities. Sometimes you get a different, like, you will not realize the correct character. That's why young children are taught literature to identify the reality. Reality is not visible, children. What you see is not the reality. There is something deeper than that. Right? You have to understand. Well, we'll go to the poem. And through this, the effect of contrast is there. It's kind of a paradox. It's contrasting because this wife says, on stage she's a different person. Up there, he's a king on a throne. But totally different character you get. So there's an effect of contrast. Right? You will get an idea about this person. You will get to know about real life. Many hidden facts through this effect of contrast. Third verse. We'll move on to the third verse. The moment he walks through that door. Do you know that door? That particular door. Right? So you can visualize. John Agard has used techniques, literary devices to emphasize what he wanted to convey. And in your mind, you can visualize. We are also, the reader becomes a part and parcel of this poem. You are in it. Now, when somebody says, the moment he walks through that door, that means as if we also know about that door. Maybe the front door, maybe the back door, maybe the little hut that they have only one door. The readers can think in different aspects. Right? This can be interpreted in different perspectives. So the wife says, without that red nose, you know, the clowns wear special red color noses. So the clown, his profession is emphasized. Without that red nose and them funny clothes. Be careful of her language. Remember, my dear students, this is not your language. She says, them funny clothes. He seems to have the world on his shoulder. This is a beautiful set of words used by the poet. He seems to have the world on his shoulder. What do you mean by that? Is he carrying the globe? No. The world refers to the matters, things, duties, responsibilities that he has to perform. Maybe as the sole breadwinner or the only person who earns for the life and for the family. This third verse is very important. You should understand. The moment he walks through that door without that red nose and them funny clothes, he seems to have the world on his shoulder. Well, through this verse, the development of contrast you can see. Successfully, the contrast is developed, right? You can identify. He seems to have the world on his shoulder. That is, world on his shoulder refers to figurative language. What is figurative language? Very rich language. Language used to explain things in a better way rather than saying he has a lot of duties, responsibilities, work to be done. The entire thing is told or depicted. Entire thing is depicted by world on his shoulder. The fourth verse. Pay attention to the fourth verse very carefully. I do me best to cheer him up, poor soul. I juggle with eggs. I turn cartwheels. I tell jokes. I do me latest card trick. I even have a borrow of his red nose. Can you identify certain important points in this verse? What does the poet want to convey? You can see still the speaker is the wife, clown's wife. Do not just write wife. It is the clown's wife. The clown's wife, right? I do me best to cheer him up, poor soul. Wife says, poor soul. You can see what wife is going to tell. She says, first person narration. I juggle with eggs. I turn cartwheels. I tell jokes. I do me latest card trick. I even have a borrow of his red nose. Can you see? What a trouble this wife takes to make her husband happy. What do you think about this verse, children? She says, poor soul. Poor soul. Poor soul does not refer to wealth. It is to refer or to express this wife's affection and warmth, understanding. This wife is not going to complain about her husband, right? This wife is not a clown. You know, this wife is not a clown. But what a lot of trouble that she takes is obvious through her actions. She takes the role of a clown here. And if you pay attention to the words, me, I do me best to cheer him up. Is it grammatically correct? No, it's not grammatically correct. Then why did the poet John Agard use this type of a language? Do you know? Through this type of a language, John Agard intends to convey the background of this wife, her ignorance, her education. During that time in England, the communication was given prominence among these people in a downtrodden, among poor families. They were not well educated, right? So this clown's woman represents the lot or the segment of a society. This clown's wife represents a set of a society where there is segment of a society, and this clown's wife's education is revealed in these lines. I do me latest card trick. So those words show that she is not a highly educated one. And another point that you should remember is the entertainer. Who is the clown here? In this context, the clown's wife has become the entertainer. And the clown, that husband, has become the audience. So the entertainer versus audience. Clown has become the audience. Clown's wife has become the clown. Right. You can comment on this verse because it's rich in visual imagery. You can visualize. You can imagine in the mind's eye. In your mind, you can visualize the entire verse, the clown's job, what the clowns do, and how this clown's wife is going to make this clown, the husband, happy. Well, the 5th verse, you can read, but he doesn't say exactly how he feels. Doesn't say what's bothering him inside. Just sits there saying almost to himself. It stopped. It's not stopped. It's not stopped with a semicolon. It ends. But the 5th verse is an eye-opener. It helps us to understand more about this clown and the clown's wife. The clown, the husband, doesn't say exactly how he feels. He doesn't reveal his true self even to his wife. And he doesn't say what's bothering him inside. Without telling anything, he just sits there. So you can visualize also, he just sits there and speaking to himself. What can you understand? Why doesn't he say anything? Why doesn't he share his issues with his wife? What are the reasons for these problems? What is he thinking? Don't you come across such questions when you read? There could be many answers. He doesn't say exactly how he feels and doesn't say what's bothering him inside. So the wife, the clown's wife, knows the problems of this husband. This man is suffering alone. People suffer due to different reasons. What could be the reasons? Maybe psychological issues. What are psychological issues? Maybe the person is not well. Maybe he did not have a good relationship with the wife. Maybe he had a problem with the working place. Mental anxiety because of the load of work, responsibilities, duties that he has to perform. Maybe he is not in such a position to fulfill all these things. But as human beings, you will get to know. Some people bottle up their feelings. Some people share their problems. In our life, when you analytically look at the world and people and its problems, some share their thoughts, some do not. Even children, you may also have certain problems and maybe you are not talking to. Remember, your parents, they will definitely see what's bothering inside you. The close relatives see your natural behavior. So this wife is the very first person to know about this clown, is revealing the truth. She knows there's something to trouble him. She knows that he is not telling anything. He is not revealing, he is not transparent, because maybe there are issues that he also cannot tell. You know that wife, clown's wife, is not a very educated one. She takes the role of the clown once the clown returns home with lot of worries, as if the whole world on his shoulder. When he gets back to his place, the wife takes his role and acts like a clown to make him happy. It's pathetic, children. Because the one who grabs the attention of the entire audience is going to be just another person and observe the wife's behavior as a clown. Right? Wife is doing all these tricks to make her husband happy. And she knows he has lot of issues inside. And she emphatically, emphasizing, says, as if the whole world is on his shoulders. Maybe due to the wages. What are wages? Wages are the salaries or the payments. Poor salary. Right. Then the husband says, remember, now the speaker is the husband. It's not the wife. Oh life, our life. What would I do without this clown of a wife? The exclamation marks you can see, exclamations, oh, ah, right? Oh is to show surprise, ah, to give relief. And there you get to know two aspects of life. Oh life, our life. Our life is filled with happiness and sadness. It's not on a bed of roses, children. It's a mixture of both happiness and sadness. All life is with surprise, with a lot of worries. But our life, the clown's wife, the particular clown says, what would I do without this clown of a wife? Actually, clown says his wife is a clown, and with a question it ends. You can see very carefully, if you look at this, this is the paradox of life. Paradoxicity of life is the contrasting things, right? And you can identify the positive relationship, because this wife is not lamenting. This wife is trying her best to make the husband happy, and in return, husband also, though he bottles up all the emotions with lot of problems in his mind, he maintains a positive relationship because husband, the clown, says, "Oh life, our life." Life, two aspects of life, good and bad. He says he has good and bad. And he says, what would I do without this clown of a wife? So his satisfaction, his happiness, totally depending on this wife. So you will see another point, important point. Appearance versus reality. Actually, children, always appearances are deceptive. There's an illusion. What you see is not the correct, exact truth. The reality can be different. The real situation is different. In this context, the clown's wife, the wife reveals the reality. The truth, wife says, the truth, the reality of the entire emotions of this particular clown. Right. Well, we'll go through the poem again. You will understand that better if I read, because now you have some sort of an idea about this. About my husband, the clown, what could I say? On stage, he's a different person. Up there, he's a king on a throne. But at home, you should hear him moan. The moment he walks through that door, without that red nose and them funny clothes, he seems to have the world on his shoulder. I do me best to cheer him up, poor soul. I juggle with eggs. I turn cartwheels. I tell jokes. I do me latest card trick. I even have a borrow of his red nose. But he doesn't say exactly how he feels. Doesn't say what's bothering him inside. Just sits there saying almost to himself, "Oh life, our life, what would I do without this clown of a wife?" Right. We pay attention to the literary devices. Literary devices are the techniques the poet has employed to make this poem a great piece of literature. We can see the figurative language. Figurative language is the language that he has used effectively with rich words to give a deeper meaning. These three words, world on his shoulder, carries more weight about his burdens, problems, the duties that he has to perform. Everything is bundled and stored in these four words. World on his shoulder is a figurative language, and that conveys more meaning. It gives more meaning. It stimulates the thoughts of the readers to understand the poem better. Right. Another literary device is the paradox, that is contradiction. Contradiction. If you see that, the second verse, up there is a king on a throne. Fourth verse says, the same wife says, I do me best to cheer him up. Poor soul. Can you ever imagine? She referred to her husband as a superior body, an authoritative person. The clown is the center of happiness, attention. He grabs the attention of the audience. He's a king on a throne. But when it comes to the fourth verse, she says, poor soul. Contradictory ideas. Contrasting ideas. It's paradox. Paradox of life. And you can identify that clearly. Can you understand? If I tell you there's a question, why do you think the wife refers to her husband as a poor soul? How does this contradict the earlier reference, king on a throne? Can you explain it now? Referring to the techniques and the poem? Well, we are going to discuss another literary device used in The Clown's Wife, the metaphor. Metaphor is an indirect or implied comparison. He is a king on a throne. It's metaphorically used. King on a throne is a metaphor. He's not a king, right? He's a king on a throne. So it's a metaphor used in the poem. Another strong point, technique the poet has employed is visual imagery. Do you know what visual imagery is? Creation of pictures in the minds of the reader. You create some pictures in your mind, right? And in the mind's eye, not the two physical eyes, you are having mind's eye. That is very helpful, that is needed to appreciate, to critically comment and analytically look at things in life, not only literature. Using various poetical forms, right? And I told you once, images help to stimulate our emotions and we become a part and parcel of this poem. The moment he walks through that door, that particular door, without that red nose and them funny clothes, now you can visualize he seems to have the world on his shoulder. So with all the problems, the person who used to grab the attention when he was on stage is going to come like somebody who is been, worried, who is very worried and with a lot of problems, hunched and without any confidence, he stepped into the house. You can visualize this, easily visualize because of the words that John Agard used in this poem. I do me best to cheer him up, poor soul. I juggle with eggs, I turn cartwheels, I tell jokes, I do me latest card trick, I even have a borrow of his red nose. So there also you can nicely visualize the character of a clown. Even the wife you can visualize wearing a red nose. Doing all these type of work to make others happy, you can visualize. Well, another important literary device that you should pay attention is the use of colloquial words. Right? These colloquial words refers to the words, this is a reference to simple, everyday spoken utterances. Spoken, not written form. Not accepted written language. Just merely for communication, uneducated ones, those who have not got the best education, might use. So this is prominent in the third verse. The wife says, the clown's wife says, them funny clothes. Do we ever say them funny clothes? Them. Then, I do me best to cheer him up, poor soul. I tell jokes, I do me latest card trick. The word me shows her background and the colloquial way of using language. Spoken terms which is not accepted, but those are colloquial terms. Then another device is alliteration. What is alliteration? Close repetition of consonant sounds. Now you can see, hear him, her sound. The her sound is visible and you can come across. Another literary device is assonance. What is assonance? It's also a close repetition of vowel sounds, right? If you read that carefully, you can remember throne, moan. That is long O sound. Throne, moan. Remember, some children make errors saying morning. Just instead of saying morning, there's a morning. That is weeping, worrying. Don't ever say mourning. It's just mourning. This is apart from this, I'm telling you. Now here, throne, mourn, long vowel sound, it's assonance. Right. The irony is also another literary device that we can talk about. Verbal irony refers to the difference between what is actually said and what is really meant. So, the clown's wife, the topic itself, carries a lot of weightage, lot of meaning, and there it is ironical. He is a king on a throne. Actually, is he a king? He is a king on a throne. This he is not a king on a throne. Very ironical. He seems to have the word on his shoulder. Ironically, you can identify the deep truth in these lines. Right. Rhetorical questions are also in this poem. Rhetorical questions refer to questions without expecting any fixed answer. The first verse is, about my husband, the clown, what could I say? There might be different answers, but no fixed answer. The last verse is uttered by the clown. What would I do without this clown of a wife? There are answers, but there are not fixed answers, so they are rhetorical questions. Now you can identify this life of the clown is observed or carefully expressed by the wife, and you get to know about the clown, the reality of clown through the real experiences of this wife. And these, because of that, there is first person narration, and you get to know authentic, genuine, accurate, correct facts of his real life. And you can identify the love and the affection of his wife. This wife, you know, it's very pathetic. She's trying her level best to cheer this clown, to cheer him up, right? And I've told you earlier the dual personality of this clown, his private life and the public life, his private face and the public face. The visual images of the clown draws sympathy, right? You will get to know very sympathetic feelings you will have, because a different section of the society is brought out by this character, the clown, and the wife. They are struggling in life. Poverty, his salary, all those things have become an eye-opener. And this is not particular to one society. This is about the universal truth about so many lives, because some people hide their true face and appear with another face because of they have to perform certain duties. Right. Well, we look at the themes. Theme is the message conveyed in the poem. Appearance versus reality. That means the gap between illusion and the reality. I told you, appearances are deceptive. You can't judge anybody by looking at. The reality might be different. Then differences, again I'm repeating, the differences between the private life and the public life. Another segment, the struggle of life, the paradox of life, happiness and the sadness, both as a mixture, right? And you will get to know the suffering of the poor that I mentioned earlier. The contrast between the entertainer and the human, because it's contrasting. You cannot imagine a clown who makes others happy is going to be the audience at his own home. His wife is only making him happy. And these conflicts make the pathos of this conflict draws the reader's sympathy. The contrast between the entertainer and the human, the reality of life you got to know. And you can identify, you can realize the pathos of this conflict. You feel sorry. I think by now you've got a very clear idea about The Clown's Wife, written by John Agard. In any case, if you have missed anything, you can simply log on to Channel NI on YouTube and refer to this beautiful poem for your further understanding. Thank you very much for joining. Goodbye.